Hello there, this is the guy that loves Mikola at Zero Sugar and welcome to this AFK journey video. So for this AFK journey video, we're gonna answer this question about Smokey, whether or not Smokey will be replaced by Mikola, and do a comparison between their kit, and then discussing about my thoughts about the two units, whether or not they are replaceable between each other, whether or not Mikola will be better than Smokey, or will Smokey still reign supreme after Mikola's release itself. Okay, so first let's start with the stats. So if we take a look at the stats itself, Smokey is a lot frailer compared to Mikola because this unit is a backline unit, right? Has higher attack, 159k. So later on we'll run through Mikola's number. So this is Mikola's stats as Supreme Plus. So this is without the EX weapon. So with all the EX weapon addition and stuff, I think it still ain't gonna change too much because Mikola being a frontline unit often needs to be standing in front soaking damage, so her defensive stats are a lot higher than Smokey. So that is obviously sort of explained for like why she's so much tankier, because she's a frontline unit, whereas for Smokey you can protect him at the backline or just keep him at the backline to prevent him from being sniped. So this is a stat difference. Smokey has a higher attack, 9k more at Supreme Plus, but a much lower defensive stat compared to Mikola in general. So Mikola survives a lot better if the enemy actually tries to burst you down. Okay, so that's point number one. Point number two, if we compare between their numbers, so for Mikola's ultimate, Mikola is able to generate a 2-tile courage sphere. So it's a circular 2-tile, so it's like 4 tiles basically. Very, I wouldn't say it's very small, but I'll say it's kind of restrictive in a sense. You kind of have to use melee units to fully benefit from this aura, because if you run like, for example, 2 range and 2 melees, right, only 3 of your units will benefit from this ultimate most of the time, because this sphere is able to increase the haste by 40 and range defense by 10 for allies within range. So it's a very small AoE. If you're not running like 5 melee units to fully capitalize on this ultimate, then you will be losing a part of the buff, which I will say it's a pity. It's a pity. If this spear was, I will say, 3 tiles, or if there's a way to increase the tile coverage, then this skill will be even more broken or a lot better. And on top of that, she's also able to increase her own haste by 30 as well as range defense by 10. So when she deals a total damage equals to 300% of her initial attack when this skill is around, she will be able to restore HP to all allies within range. So increasing the level will increase the duration of the spear and then further increase the healing wave to 110% of the attack. So comparing this ultimate to Smokey's ultimate is just a lot better. I personally think that Smokey's ultimate, number one, is a lot more flexible. It covers a bigger range, right? It is a 2-tile range as well, but it is able to increase the range when he uses the active itself, right? On top of that, right, there's this passive that actually starts healing your ally before the active is even casted. So for Mikola's case, you need to cast the active to get the sphere around her for the skill to kick in, right? But for Smokey's case, you get the passive heal per second, which is upwards to 31% of his attack per second, as long as he's alive, as long as he's not interrupted. So the one weakness which I see Smokey versus Mikola is that Smokey is a lot weaker to control centric teams, which can continuously lock him down to prevent him from challenging the skill. So that's where Smokey loses out to Mikola by a lot. But other than that, if you were to compare the heal numbers as well as the buff, right, 30 haste if you're able to get the improved aroma 2, right, that is pretty massive, right, compared to Mikola's also 30 haste, 40 haste. So 10 more haste right here, but slightly limited range and a smaller coverage compared to Smokey's case. So I'll say for Mikola's case, in order to capitalize on this ultimate itself, you have to build, I'll say, a very melee centric thing. At least a team that has 3 units that can benefit from this aura, including herself. So you need 2 other units to benefit from it in order for this skill to sort of rival Smokey's ultimate. Because Smokey's ultimate basically just covers the whole battlefield if you're able to put him in an optimal position, right? For example, Dream Realm, if you put him in the middle of the map, or maybe in the front tile, but maybe the 1 or 2 tile to the left from the center tile, you're still able to cover most units on the battlefield. So this buff is more beneficial for everyone and is able to cover more range compared to Mikola. So that is Smokey's advantage versus Mikola. However, there's one thing which I think Mikola is a lot stronger on the ultimate compared to Smokey, and that is Mikola's ultimate having the possibility to be permanent. Because if you take a look at the enhanced force over here, this Courage Sphere remains unaffected in duration if her side gains control of the Honor Arena. So if you're able to hold onto the arena for the second skill itself, right, this ultimate basically doesn't go on cooldown. So you can permanently have the 40 haste going as well as the range defense going for your allies within the skill coverage. So that is one thing which I think can sort of make Mikola insanely crazy, because as long as you're able to hold on to this arena thing, then this buff is permanent. And compared to Smokey's like buff which only comes into like this 30 haste when he goes into the improved aroma 2, I think that is a lot better because it's more haste and it's permanent if you're able to do that. So that is one thing which I think Mikola might have an edge over. But then the thing is, the condition is a little bit challenging, right? It's not the easiest because you need to hold onto the arena permanently and you need to cast the ultimate, right? You need to activate the ultimate. Whereas for Smokey's case, yes, you also need to cast the active to get the improved aroma, but Smokey has a way to improve his energy recovery per second, allowing him to get to the improved aroma 2 much faster. So that is one thing which I think Smokey is a lot better, right? More versatile, as well as I'll say like a much beginner friendly character. Because for Mikola's case, I think you will need a little bit of team building for her abilities to kick in, especially the ultimate part. Okay, so that's for the ultimate analysis. If we take a look at like the other skills itself, second skill, energizing formula, increases the attack of all allies within aroma up to 20%, right? Additionally, he's able to recover additional energy per second for every non-summon ally affected. So this is basically self energy recovery as well as the attack buff to accelerate the ultimate. And then quick recovery, which is the third skill, heals allies within the aroma by upwards to 120% HP of the attack, or 120% of Smokey's attack. So this is basically in tandem with the aroma skill, and this is where Smokey is insanely powerful, because being able to buff, being able to self haste to use the active as fast as possible, as well as heal the ally at the same time, is just really good. And right, this increase in energy recovery also benefits the Withering Potion, which is damage over time. So once he's able to reach the third ultimate casting, he's able to do a lot of damage. So this is where I think Smokey just has a lot of synergy in his kit compared to Mikola. Whereas for Mikola's case, if you take a look at the skill itself, Mikola's heroic duo is actually insanely powerful. Same thing, increase all allies attack by 20% when Mikola's side gains control of the Honor Arena. So there is a condition, right? It is a 20% attack buff, same as Smokey, but you need to be in control of the arena. And at the same time, you're also able to heal your allies' HP by 12% per second. So this skill combined with the ultimate sort of is like Smokey's first skill and second skill combined together as well, but the numbers are a little bit lower, and at the same time you have to hold on to the middle of the battlefield. You need to have more units standing in the middle of the battlefield, so that's one drawback that Mikola has. And Vigorous Core, same thing, just HP recovery amount, as well as physical and magical defense boost for herself, as well as 2 Vigorous allies. So if you were to combine the 3 skills together and analyze it side by side, they are actually pretty similar, right? This is 40 haste, that is 30 haste, and then there's a bunch of heals between the two of them, and then there's a 20% attack buff in heroic duo, as well as the energizing formula, right, from this skill itself. But Smokey is just able to get the ultimate up or activate the ultimate usage much faster compared to Mikola, which means that for Mikola's case, you need to be able to find a way to survive until she's able to cast the Dauntless Hume in order for her to sort of rival Smokey in that position, because Smokey just gets off the ultimate faster, and then from there you're able to get all the good buffs as well as the range increase as well as the haste increase much faster as well. So that's one thing which I think Smokey has more advantage over Mikola. And one more thing about Mikola is that I personally think this unit is a little bit RNG based in terms of positioning, because Mikola is a unit that runs to the front, but there's honestly no way for you to control where the melee units like to run. Sometimes they'll run to the left and then all of a sudden they run to the right. So yes, you might have a melee team that can benefit a lot from the Dauntless Hume Courage Sphere, but then if you cannot control where your melee units are running or jumping around, that could actually be kind of challenging to sort of fully utilize her abilities, because you are relying on your units staying in that sphere, which is only like a 2 tile width coverage, which is a lot smaller compared to like the enhanced range of Smokey's aroma. So the fulfilling condition is a lot more challenging. Generally, I think both of them should be on the same level, at least before Mikola gets the EX weapon, because I do think this combat fury damage output could be pretty insane. But right now, I don't actually have a way to test it. And one more thing is that you need to actually get your Courage Sphere active for at least 6 seconds before the Combat Fury actually kicks in. So that's another problem. So I think a lot of Mikola's problem is her overly reliant on other conditions for her ability to kick in. Right, you need to cast the ultimate to get the buff, you need your allies to be within the AoE to get the buff going, and then you need to hold on to the arena for the heroic duo buff, and you need to hold on to the arena for the enhanced force buff. So Mikola definitely has a potential to outscale Smokey in terms of damage output if you're a whale. I guess in the global server, if I'm able to test her to Supreme Plus or push her to that tier, then we'll try her out. But based on my initial observation, I think Smokey is still more beginner friendly and slightly more, I'll say, like versatile in terms of team positioning as well as builds itself. Just that I think for PvP side of things, Mikola would probably be the better support there, because Smokey is just super duper weak if your enemies can shut him down continuously, because if you shut his special aroma down, he's pretty much dead. But at the same time, right, if you're getting controlled and bursted down in arena by all the Iron, Carolina, Arden, Elsa stuff, and Mikola doesn't have any unaffected or control immunity, she's also not able to get her stuff out. So that can also be another point of argument. Okay, so this is post edit zip that this is another point which I kind of left out, but I think it's quite important, especially comparing between Smokey and Mikola. So based on Mikola's kit, right, Mikola's kit benefits all allies, right, where Smokey's kit benefits all non-summon units. So this is allied heroes. So right here, as you guys can see, right, heals ally, so the heal benefits the summons as well, but the haste is all allied heroes. Whereas for Mikola's case, if we take a look at the kit, right, this is increased haste and range defense for all allies. So this means, right, I haven't had a chance to test it yet, there is a possibility that her ability can actually buff up all the zoo units. For example, Barrel's Silhouette, for example, Florbell's kits, as well as Sisia's summon. So there is a possibility that Mikola could actually go really well in the zoo team, because in the zoo team itself, you're able to have a lot of units hold on to the arena fort to get this heroic duo going, which is, I think, very valid. So combine that with her ability to actually buff up weakest allies compared to, for example, Smokey's ability to just buff up ally heroes, there is a possibility that Mikola could be an exclusive support to the zoo teams itself. So with regards to that, right, I think there's a possibility, but I'm not able to test it out. So we have to wait until other players or other content creators who have the necessary units to do the testing, test it out for us. So that's pretty much it, right? Just a very simple comparison between Smokey as well as Mikola. I personally think if you do have Mikola but you already have your Smokey built up, it's perfectly fine, because Smokey pretty much is enough for most cases, right? There is really a very limited, I'll say, like situation where you will be running both of them, because the slots for the different units are so tight. And I think Mikola could be a little bit niche in terms of team building, just because you need units that can benefit from the ultimate as much as possible to actually make her effective, which is quite challenging, right, if you consider the different good units for Dream Realm itself. For PvE side, I do think that both of them are equally good, but we will need more testing on that. So right, we'll wait until I'm able to max her to S+ to test her out myself on the global server. That's it for this video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Do remember to like and subscribe to see more. See you guys again in my next video. Bye guys.